Welcome, Climate Viewers. My name is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News. It is June 5th, 2017, and today's show is about chemtrails and where conspiracy meets reality. Now, for the guys who've been tuned in to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Jim Lee Climate Viewer, you guys have seen the videos lately have had a little bit of frustration in them. And that's because I don't think that people are really looking at this whole chemtrail thing from a realistic perspective. So tonight, I want to clarify a couple things because obviously I've had some people very confused. And I'm really going to dig into the nuts and butts, the details. And I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, but if you guys know me by now, I'm long-winded. So let's start here. Aluminum, barium, and chemtrails explained. Just the facts. Now, a lot of people talk about this. This picture has nothing to do with chemtrails. This is actually a wake vortex test. It's aerodynamic contrails. This is them dumping some fuel. Believe half of what you see, right? Won't get into that. I'm just saying that because the trolls, they get so triggered when they see me doing this stuff. And my theme for chemtrails has been believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. And I've stayed by that belief for quite a while. What's up, James White, TR, guys in the chat? I'm watching. Is to believe half of what you see, and then, trust but verify. So I wanted to find out for myself, is aluminum and barium in the chemtrails? And these are the facts. These are not arguable. These have been raked over by debunkers 100 times. And these are all the facts. So for those who don't know my position, I come at this from, I've already debated against geoengineers, Ken Caldeira, David Keith for 2 years. I have listed several hundred geoengineering patents. I've mapped every ionospheric heater around the world. I'm studying cloud seeding. Then suddenly I find out about chemtrails. And I go, Now, I've previously been bullshitted on the internet with this whole LNN Comet of Doom thing, Nibiru. Not going to get played again. So let's keep a level head and let's try to see what the points of view out there are. So as a newbie, just like Puffin says, I'm going to try to keep this for the noobs, noob friendly. This was in the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. And as you can see, this article I'm looking at today, this is 2015 is when I wrote this. So let's just keep that in mind. And in 2013, I had just come to chemtrails and I was very confused, like a lot of you are. Who do you trust? What do you believe? And it really runs the gamut, of what the hell is a chemtrail? And we're going to get into a little bit of that probably at a later date because I really want to just get into the semantics of just the words chemtrail versus contrail. It's very fascinating. It's very deep. Constructive conversation needs to be had in the future. But regardless, the topic for today is where conspiracy meets reality. And everybody wants to know, is there barium and aluminum in chemtrails? So I'm going to just stop running my mouth and we're going to just go to that. Let's just do that. Barium and aluminum chemtrails. If you go to the IPCC's report, they admit that metal particles comprising elements such as aluminum, titanium, chromium, iron, nickel, and barium are estimated to be present at the parts per billion by volume level at nozzle exhaust planes. And it says right here, CIAP 1975 and Two People 1975. So the IPCC says that we know that aluminum and barium, in addition to titanium, chromium, iron, and nickel, are estimated to be in the exhaust at a parts per billion. And this was based on a guess from 1975. The fact that they could say that with a straight face. And then they go on down here. Although metals have been found in residuals in cirrus and contrail ice particles, 1998, 98, 98, their number and associated mass are considered too small to affect the formation or properties of more abundant volatile soot plume aerosol particles. I don't want to get too technical, but just for the scientific people in the community who are listening to this broadcast, I went to the EPA in 2015 and I gave a speech at an EPA hearing on pollution. And at that hearing, you can see my transcript right here, and you can see the video that was recorded on C-SPAN right there. And I said all of this, people still don't get it today. 2 years later, they still don't get it. Please review this little speech I wrote, because I put my heart and soul into it and I backed it up with a ton of references. But I want you guys to see this because this is fascinating. So what they say basically in the IPCC reports is that these metals, these aluminum and barium that everybody's complaining about, yeah, we guessed that in 1975 there was two different papers that guess they're in the parts per billion, but really, we believe that soot is what's making all the clouds, and that really doesn't matter. So here's the rub. Now, this is from my speech at the EPA. And this is a quote. It's talking about what's actually making the clouds that are sticking around. And this is the quote. The big one that we've found is lead. Surprise. Comes from things like tetraethyl lead in fuel, still used in some light aviation. So it's probably the biggest metal we find, or the most frequent metal that we find, but we find a whole host of different metals actually. And of course they would say that those metals really don't matter. And I would say, and I did say to the EPA, that this is another quote. It would seem that you would have to change all of the aerosol in the atmosphere very rapidly to get a big effect on clouds. But because mineral dust and metallic particles are such a small amount of the particulate matter, just 1% or 2%, it means that you only have to change about 1% or 2% of the metal particles to get a big effect on these clouds. And this comes from a paper called Clarifying the Dominant Sources of Cirrus Cloud Creation. Because whether you want to call them a chemtrail or a contrail, once that cloud spreads out and covers the sky, it is a cirrus cloud. So that's where everybody gets, hung up in the semantics of all this. But back to the story. So over here, they're saying, it's really soot. And even this is even wrong. I mean, soot is creating a lot of the clouds. It is what the military uses for weather warfare. It is what the Department of Homeland Security uses to steer hurricanes. Soot is a weather modification agent. But when we're talking about chemtrails, and most people are referring to persistent contrails or contrails that spread out and become cirrus clouds, it is more than likely that those cirrus clouds are made from the metals that separate from the soot. And that's too technical, but we won't go into that. So is aluminum and barium in there? IPCC says yes, but they say it's only in the... I can prove that incorrect right now just by scrolling down here. Boom. So in this JP8 jet fuel, you can see that there is 9,360 parts per billion of aluminum, which is in fact 9 million. 9 parts per million is my point. So it's more than parts per billion. There's more than just some parts per billion just in the jet fuel itself. And this is from the U.S. Air Force's study, Trace Element and Polycyclic Aromatic Hydrocarbon Analysis of Jet Engines Fuel, Jet A, JP5, and JP8. Now, in this study, they say that Jet A did none detected for aluminum. I have other studies where they find aluminum in that fuel as well. And in this study, you can see that the JP5, which is made of gasoline, had 2,100 parts per billion of aluminum, and the JP8 has 9,300 parts per billion. Get worse. Calcium, 5,000 parts per billion in the gas, 31,000 parts per billion in the diesel fuel, which is what all these planes fly now. Over here on the Jet A, you see very minuscule amounts. Now, a lot of these say not detected. And, you know, I just say that the reason why there really is no transparency in all of this is because these tests are done under highly controlled environments. They're done in test chambers with an engine where, you know, an overpaid tech works on that engine. There's no fuel fouling. There's no fame contamination. There's no humbugs. There's no bad sample of jet fuel. Everything tightly controlled. So these tests are going to be different than if you were to do this test 45 times in a row, you would get 45 different results. I can promise you that. But regardless, we can see that aluminum, strontium, titanium, and even minuscule amounts of barium are in the jet fuel. And by minuscule, 9 parts per billion in the gas, 38 parts per billion in the diesel fuel. So that's where we're at so far. There is aluminum and barium in the chemtrails, in the contrails, in the clouds made by planes. But the barium is minuscule and the aluminum seems minuscule until you consider that there are 100,000 flights per day. And I could show you an animation of that and really break my computer, but we won't do that. So, and now they're coming up with these biofuels and they're adding nanoparticles of aluminum to it. And you can see here, Geophysical biodiesel, a fuel derived from crushed seeds of the Geophysical plant, water, and a surfactant, then blended in different proportions of alumina nanoparticles. In addition to outperforming regular biofuel, the nanoparticle spiked fuels produce significantly lower quantities of nitrogen oxide and carbon monoxide gases and created less smoke. So they're putting aluminum nanoparticles in the jet fuel to increase performance. And you can see here's some of the papers on that. Energetic nanoparticles as fuel additives for enhanced performance of propulsion systems, reduction of emissions and fuel consumption in a compressed ignition engine using nanoparticles. Nanoparticles increase biofuel performance is the name of this one. And they even say some crazy stuff like this. Nanoparticles should be used judiciously because they tend to entrain into human bodies. And they know that because basically they can pass the blood-brain barrier. So this stuff is being burned over your head. But here's where it gets weird. Because this is where conspiracy meets reality. And this is the reality of the situation. Rockets are probably a much larger source of aluminum than chemtrails. Now this, we don't know. We don't know for certain because there has never been any accurate in the field, what they like to call in situ, randomized testing of the exhaust coming out of these planes, period. Now, this is one I want you to pay attention to very carefully. It is the same thing as the Volkswagen emissions cheating scandal. Volkswagen said, this is what's coming out of our exhaust pipes. They even went so far as to rig software in the computer to make it look like it is that way. The only difference between the Volkswagen emissions cheating scandal and the cloud farts that we're seeing in the sky overhead is there's never been any randomized testing of that. Write it down, because the first person to sue and actually take these airlines to task and go up there and do that will make Volkswagen look like a joke. Back to the story. So I got this little paper from a science class, and it said that every time the space shuttle was launched, 304 tons of aluminum oxide was dumped into the atmosphere. along with 240 tons of hydrochloric acid. It was so bad that the acid rain clouds produced by the shuttle launch would melt concrete. Look it up. But with that launch came 304 tons. That's times 2,000. That's 608,000 pounds of aluminum oxide dumped per launch. Now that dwarfs anything that any plane could ever do, by far. And there have been many launches around the world. Not all of them use aluminum rocket fuel anymore. So let's continue on down the road. Another source of atmospheric aluminum, you better consider it, because I like to tell the whole story, not just half the story. A large silicon aluminum aerosol plume in central Illinois, North African desert dust. So a lot of the aluminum in the air comes from dirt, erosion. But that's just a fact of life, isn't it? So in the Sahara, you know, in the north of Africa, you can go on ClimateViewer 3D any day. You can go to the satellite and you can watch the dust flying up off Africa in huge plumes. That dust is mineral dust, is filled with aluminum. Can't argue it. So it's a huge thing, and it's really not considered by anybody in the chemtrail community. They don't want to talk about it. It's like a taboo thing. But I'm trying to see the entire story, both sides of the story, all the facts laid bare. And I do appreciate everybody in the chat. I really wish that I could engage directly with you on this tonight. I'm really going to try to get through a lot because this one's really important. So bear with me. I'm going to go scroll back through this in a little bit, okay? So that's the facts there on aluminum. Aluminum's in the jet fuel. It's coming out the rear of the plane. Amount unknown. And aluminum comes from rockets. And aluminum comes from erosion, like very large crops. Think the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl happened because we cut down all the trees and we put a whole lot of crops and all that dirt blowing into the air, creating the Dust Bowl. Moving along. Now, barium. I can't wait for you guys to see this shit tonight, because this has been on my website for years. And I think it's high time we get this one straight. So people talk about barium coming from chemtrails. And I even in my my most recent videos where I went out to Ed Griffin's thing, it's called Geoengineering, Weather Modification, and Weaponizing Nature. If you have not seen it, please watch it. It's the best damn thing I ever did. I explain the whole story and what I want to do about it. But in the middle of it, I said that barium comes from a thing called status 450. And I may have been incorrect. Now, it's something called dinonaphthalene sulfonic acid, denza, comma, barium salt. And I may have read a NASIC code incorrect, and it was actually the one that doesn't have the comma barium salt. So if I was wrong, I stand corrected. Status 450 may or may not be a barium fuel additive that's a static, anti-static agent. Still out to lunch on that. So I had to still get to the bottom of it. Where's the barium coming from? This is from NASA themselves. Chemistry characterization of jet aircraft engine particulates by XPS results from Apex 3. And you can see barium compounds serve as corrosion and rust inhibitors, detergent, and anti-smoke additives in fuels. And they say right here, there you go, barium, 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 barium. Zinc, this, that, anti-wear, antioxidant, corrosion inhibitors, sodium and barium are associated with detergents that neutralize strong acids produced during the combustion process. So yes, they add barium to the fuel as a corrosion and rust inhibitor, a fuel detergent, and possibly an anti-smoke additive. Interesting. Also, from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, CDC, barium compounds are used in jet fuel. Boom. Cannot argue with these facts. Interesting linked research. Effects of barium fuel additive for fuel sulfur level on diesel particulate emissions. Effect of barium-based additive on diesel exhaust particulates. Barium additives as diesel smoke suppressants. There's a patent for you on barium oxide, barium sulfate ash. Fascinating stuff. Reduction of jet engine exhaust smoke with fuel additives of barium. But this is the one that I want to focus on for the remainder of the video because it's fascinating to me. Nobody knows shit about it. And this is going to probably blow your mind. So nobody is talking about barium from space. And I don't know why. Because this is a thing. And it's gone on since 1963. And something called plasma seeding. It's similar to cloud seeding, except you're seeding clouds in space. You put barium, lithium, sulfur hexafluoride, strontium, all kinds of metals up in space, and they create what's called an ion cloud. And with this ion cloud, you can see the invisible ionosphere, you can see the magnetic field lines, and you can modify space. What do you mean by thanks, chemtrail cowboys? They do have aluminum and barium. I mean, these are just the facts. The barium in actual exhaust from planes, coming from planes, looks to be minuscule on the surface. However, buckle your seatbelts. People, when they're talking about chemtrails, they're not always just talking about the clouds coming out of planes. Sometimes they're referring euphemistically as chemtrails as a whole. Sometimes when they're talking about these rocket launches, like you hear that NASA at Wallops launched a lithium rocket, and everybody says it's chemtrails. Hell, even the NASA guy at Wallops called it a chemtrail. So you guys in the debunk world can bitch all you like. The guy at NASA said, yeah, we've released the chemtrails from the rocket. So let's get into that. So this is a semantic thing because you science guys, you want to mock because somebody said chemtrails, but hey man, generally they may be referring to any one of these things, not just the clouds coming from behind Delta Airlines. So in this chemtrail scenario, we are using something called a sounding rocket. Sounding rockets look like this. Is my video dragging? Just curious. How am I doing out there? Because I noticed that whenever I switch my tabs, sometimes there's like a long drag period. Anybody in the chat? Just curious. Sweet. So as you can see here, we have a little, infographic. And in this scenario, the sounding rocket goes up, and we can see over here on the side, altitude 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, as high as 300 kilometers. Right there. The sounding rocket goes up. Oh, there's a little plane down here with the other kind of chemtrails. Just so we're all clear, there are many kinds of chemtrails on the internet. Just because somebody refers to it as a chemtrail and they don't call it a metal oxide cloud doesn't mean that they're an idiot. They just referred to it that way. And I hope that you guys can maybe better understand my use of terminology to screw with people. But at the end of the day, this is what's really going on. So in this chemtrail scenario, sounding rockets go up, they dump their chemtrails, and you can see tracers follow high altitude winds. And basically they are dumping a chemtrail so that it leaves a trail in the sky and they can see how fast the wind's blowing, where the magnetic field lines are, all that kinds of stuff. Over here on the NASA page, now I've been talking about this since 2012. And in 2015, NASA put this whole page together. It's absolutely fascinating. Look at this. It's the sounding rockets page. Check this shit out. Last updated, I don't know when this was originally made, but they have a whole section on sounding rockets now because I guess the cat's out of the bag, right? It surely is tonight. And over here on the side, you can see vapor tracers. I mean, they could just say chemtrails right there. They called them vapor tracers. Chemical trails. They are trails of chemicals that go behind your fucking rockets, but you want to call them vapor tracers and mock people who call them chemtrails. Laughable. So anyway, they shoot the rocket up, they make a trail. And over here are actual photos of what they look like. So let's just put those little jewels up because this will be informative. So in the first one, we have, I believe this is the trimethyl aluminum. Yes. This is trimethyl aluminum over here, and it glows blue. Okay. And this is what it looks like. And you can see this says Poker Flat, Alaska, February 28th, 1978. Like I said, they started doing these sounding rockets and shooting barium into space in 63. So in 1963, they started dumping barium, aluminum, and all this stuff in space. Nobody in the chemtrails from planes world really ever acknowledges any of this. I've told it to every chemtrail website owner, but for some reason they don't want to really talk about it because this is where Harp comes into chemtrails. This is the actual place where Harp and chemtrails coincide. I shall explain. Poker Flat is a rocket range that is next to Harp. It is north of Harp. Okay, so because Poker Flat rocket range is north of Harp, they will dump these chemical trails in space. They will determine what the space weather is like so that they can update websites like spaceweather.com. And then after they make their predictions based on these observations from their tracers, they may decide to zap the sky and modify it. Harp, there is only one Harp in the world. It is in Gakona, Alaska. All right, Viewer 3D. This is at ClimateViewer.org. I have gone over here to the sidebar and I clicked on electromagnetic and then I clicked on ionospheric heaters. And what I'm going to do for you is I'm also going to click on Harp right here underneath it. Boom. There's only one Harp in the world. We're going to fly down to it. This is it. So Harp is right here and Poker Flats. Is it on my map? It would be if I brought the laser thing up. Hold on. Let's see. I'm gambling here. Laser thing. News not. I don't know a different map. Anywho, so Poker Flats is right about up here. I could go search it. Let's go to it real quick. Oh, fail. No. I put in rocket range. That's right. No good. Reload. Moving along. Of course, with that, I'm still wood. I have a very good upload bandwidth. Let's redo that. Well, isn't that just interesting? That's a major fail there. Anyway, so there's a rocket range up there. I'll actually go map out in the future. We'll do that in a later video. Boy, what a bunch of wasted time. So anyway, Gakona, one of them. Everybody else that calls an extrad or anything else in the world HARP, they're really referring to something called an ionospheric heater. And that's what all of these have in common. So this is the HARP IRI. This is what it looks like from the satellite. It's a big field of antennas. Just heaters on boats. Heaters on boats. We got lasers. We got Super Darn. We got VLF, ELF, Digison. There's a lot I know about, and if I don't know about it, please tell me. That's my response to that, Frank. So anyway, this is the entire HARP facility. You can click on any of this stuff, see the actual power plants that are there. The photos will pop up. Here's the diesel engines that run HARP. You go over here, you can see the actual inside the HARP building. I'm very particular about this. I was beating HARP to death back in 2013 through 2015. And I realized that I haven't talked about HARP in like, it's pretty amazing stuff. But anyway, there's the inside of the building at HARP. So we're kind of getting far astray here, but regardless, this is HARP, and right above it is Poker Flats up here, and this is High Pass. This is a predecessor to HARP. It's now closed. They got a pretty interesting little image right here. If you click on the High Pass facility, you'll see it. Open image in a new tab. What you can see here is an infographic that shows you the whole process, which you rarely get to see. Because most people talk about HARP and they don't talk about the rockets. So we're talking about aluminum and barium coming out of sounding rockets for anybody just tuned in. And HARP. Now, this is the predecessor to HARP. It's a phased array. It's right here. It's shooting this cone up to the top, and that's an artificial ionospheric mirror up there at the top. It's the focused zone where the energy is headed. Now, you can see 200 kilometers, 400 kilometers. They're aiming at 300 kilometers because I know. So this circle is at about 300 kilometers in the sky. Now, over here, it says rocket. And the rocket is shooting right through the center of that hole. Do you think that's a coincidence? It is not. There is a thing called boring holes in the ionosphere. And when you fire a rocket through the ionosphere, you can actually bore a hole in it, which allows electrons to precipitate out. So a lot of electricity in space shoots through the hole that the rocket just punched in the sky. And they take advantage of that. Don't get it twisted. So these rockets can be used with the phased array, which is HARP. And then you see a VHF radar and a biostatic radar are also being used. And they've got a laser over here, the LiDAR. So all of these instruments are working together to use the ionosphere. The hole does not stay permanent. If the hole, in the military's own paperwork on this whole process about shooting rockets through the sky, burning holes in the ionosphere, boiling the ionosphere with electricity, they say that it's temporary. So the minute they turn that, HARP off, instantly they say it snaps back to the way it was. I would say that that's probably mostly correct. Because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is we have a magnetic shield around our planet. We have the sun is a river. So the river of light coming our way, and it is basically whipping our ionosphere around like a bubble in the wind. And the minute you turn the ionospheric heater off, obviously the ionosphere is going to go right back to flapping in the wind. Yeah, it heals itself right back the way it was. It's an electrical field. They interrupt the electrical field. They perturb it by dumping chemicals in space. Let's move along some of the other pictures. So on their little thing, they've got this one. This is trimethyl aluminum. And then right here, I believe this was the lithium cloud. So this is a photo of a lithium cloud. And they said that what's interesting about a lithium cloud and why Wallops uses the lithium rockets is because it's visible during the daytime. So it's visible in the infrared spectrum. So if any of you guys have like night vision goggles, you may be able to like see this in an infrared wavelength during the day. Just a heads up for, I mean, hey, you want to know there's a lithium cloud over your head, right? Apparently it'll show up in infrared. Just saying. So that's why they say they use them during the day. They believe that dumping these lithium clouds allows them to see the winds. Winds invisible. So they put these clouds up there to check the solar winds and, you know, diagnose the ionosphere. And if the ionosphere is behaving badly today, whip out the ionospheric heaters and whip it into shape. These are the facts. Told you I would bring the facts today. By the way, this article's been on my website for 2-3 years. And finally, here's a shot of all three together. And the big purple one up here, guess what that is, guys? That is a barium cloud. That is an actual photo of an actual barium cloud straight from the NASA freaking website. Right there. And it says the cloud in the upper left-hand part of the image is due to a barium release. The red part is the ionized component, which has become elongated along the Earth's magnetic field lines. The purple-blue cloud that surrounds the red ionized barium is a combination of neutral barium and strontium. Are you guys hearing me? Do you now understand my frustration with the chemtrail community that I've been talking about this shit for 3 years at least? And all I hear on a daily damn basis is Delta Airlines is spraying us like bugs with aluminum and barium. Is there aluminum and barium in the freaking jet fuel? Yes. Is there aluminum and barium in the clouds that they're making? Yes. Does it compare to the rocket launches and barium launches and barium clouds that they're using to modify the ionosphere? I haven't got the freaking clue, but if you're not talking about all of it, if you're not understanding that all of this goes on simultaneously, that there are multiple sources of the same stuff, then I feel like we're doing a disservice to everybody. So do you now hear me? Because like, I think that people have had me so confused. They're like, Jim just believes all chemtrails are pollution. No, I believe that if you're talking about clouds coming out of planes, the best way to deal with it is call it pollution and say, I don't like planes making clouds. Airline industry, you're hashtag grounded. Hands off my sky. Hashtag hands off my sky. Hashtag you're grounded. Don't like people ripping your ass off an airline, dragging you after getting tased. Airlines, you're grounded. That's how you deal with airlines. But you're never going to deal with NASA or Harp if you don't even know what a freaking sounding rocket is. And when other chemtrail website owners have been informed, because trust me, I've told them, and they refuse to talk about this stuff, it really frustrates the shit out of me. And I think you guys can understand that. So there's a photo of a barium cloud made by NASA on a freaking NASA website with the date 2015 on it. Because the cat is really out of the bag on all this stuff. So everybody needs to get on the same page. They need to know about all this stuff. So let's move along. We've done this part. Boom. What do I got here? Sounding rockets and tracers. Here's another page. There's a Black Brant rocket, I bet. Hey, Black Brant rocket. I swear to God, I didn't read that. And that's from Wallops, Virginia. That's where they launch these damn things. There is a rocket range in Poker Flat, Alaska. That is next to the Harp facility. The Tromso facility. Let's go back here. Oh my God, I'm zoomed. Let's go fly over to Tromso. So we go here and Tromso Ice Cat. Fly over there. This is in Tromso, Norway. Come on, internets. Boom. This is the Tromso ionosphere here. Looks like this. Got a nice little photo to go with it. Bam. This Tromso rocket range associated with it called the rocket range. I happen to know that's on my damn laser map. I don't know why the other one wasn't. That was very weird. I'm going back through a lot of this stuff, and I'm going, where's all my crap at? So I've been away from my map for far too long. Is that it? There you go. Andoya rocket range. See that? See how far apart they are? At least this one didn't fail me. The Poker Flat one totally failed me. I swear to God, I have Poker Flat on one of these maps. But you can see right there, there's the laser. Check that out. Oh, no, that's a rocket launch from Andoya. It's beautiful and creepy all at the same time. So they launch the rockets. They have ionospheric heaters nearby. And that is the power of mapping. I love mapping. Anyway, there's the ISCAT heater. Same with Puerto Rico. Same with Jicamarca, Peru. You can see the red ones. These are all of the different ionospheric heaters. And you can go over here and just fly to them. So let me turn the Harp thing off. Let me turn the laser thing off. And you can just fly around to them by going to this. So Shigaraki. This one's pretty awesome looking. I love to show people this ionospheric heater. It looks like something out of Star Trek. Seriously. Look at that shit. That's the Harp in Japan. It's called an ionospheric heater. Back to the story. So now that we know what sounding rockets are, now that we've heard of barium ion clouds, let's take it a step. Let's give you an actual experiment. So this is called the metal oxide space cloud experiment. Artificial ionospheric modifications using the metal oxide space cloud experiment, MOSC. Here's your paper for the people who want to do a little deeper research on this. Here's another one, empirical modeling of plasma clouds. Like I said, it's called in the dork world, plasma clouds, ion clouds. Empirical modeling of the plasma clouds produced by the metal oxide space clouds, MOSC experiment. And another one right here, high frequency propagation results from the metal oxide space cloud experiment. Boy, don't let me scroll down. Very dorky stuff. Other people may have heard of this one. This is called the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment, CARE. I mean, has anybody heard of the CARE? There's a photo of it. And this was a barium release as well. I do believe it was a barium release. Anyway, it was a chemical release. And here is a, I'm over on the Living Moon. Jack Anderson, I believe. Jack something. Good Lord, man, I'm failing here. But anyway, this guy's like my personal hero. He's got so much amazing stuff. Anyway, this is from the CARE project, the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment. You can see all this. Basically, here's how it goes. You know, same deal. We launch right here. From Wallops, you got a ground-based radar. That's at the Haystack University, the MIT University Haystack radar. They have an X-band radar there that they use for those lithium launches. I'm pretty sure I got it on the map. Why don't we gamble? We're just about done with this here. And I believe it would be under other radar observatories. But anyway, too much info. Let's just stick with it. We're almost there. So basically, what I'm trying to get to you is people shoot rockets in the sky. They dump aluminum and strontium, sulfur hexaflithium. They create artificial noctilucent clouds. These can be used for noctilucent clouds are very high clouds, usually made by meteorite dust, but they can artificially make them. And noctilucent cloud formation is at an all-time high right now, I was told recently. I need to look into that, of course. But regardless, these are called artificial dusty plasma clouds, artificial ion clouds, and they are made by NASA rockets. So let me go back up here. I found this one slide particularly interesting, and we're going to wrap it up there. Why is it so important? I mean, why would they shoot? Because really, that's the only question we haven't asked yet. You know, about knocked loose in clouds stuff. Just know there are electric blue clouds. Go look them up. They're fascinating to look at. But the fact that there are more of them than ever, the fact that they shield us from the sun, they can cool the planet. Geoengineers want to make dusty clouds, and these assholes can make them with rockets and Harp. Look into Project Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I could go on for hours. So this is the summation. Why is this important? Allow a study of basic physics of the near-Earth environment. So they're treating space, the sky over your head, as a laboratory. Write it down. The sky over your head is an experimental lab. That's why they do it. Point 1. Point 2. Allows for control of some physical processes in the space environment. Like with Harp. That's how they control the radio frequencies of the world. Allows for possible denial of adversary communication, navigation systems, military. This is called geophysical warfare, using the world as a weapon. So using the Van Allen belts, using the ionosphere as a weapon system. The military can go dump a barium ion cloud, heat it with Harp, and basically deny radio communication over the horizon to their military adversaries. There's another reason. Allows for possible new communication system techniques, military. This is the artificial ionospheric mirror. It allows them to, as we showed in that photo earlier, create a mirror in the sky, bounce radio waves off of it. Basically, they can extend their view over the horizon by creating mirrors in the sky. We won't get into the other military aspects of mirrors in the sky, but let's just go on. So this is the one that really got me, and it just pretty much sums it up. And we'll just leave it here. How is these perturbed? For all of those who want to laugh at the chemtrail tards, you can't laugh anymore. Injection of charged particle ions and electron beams, like lasers, and particle accelerators on rockets. Beam aboard a rocket experiment, Bear, back in the 70s, 80s. Release of chemicals that photoionize. Barium, like the purple red cloud you saw earlier, a barium ion cloud. Excuse me. Release of chemicals that attach electrons, nickel carbonyl, sulfur hexafluoride, trimethyl bromide, trifluoromethyl bromide. That's a mouthful. Sulfur hexafluoride is a banned chemical. It is a CFC. In case anybody remembers that term, CFCs. They were banning CFCs. Sulfur hexafluoride, aka SF6, is the most potent greenhouse gas there is. Yet NASA, who really believes in climate change and really wants to save us from greenhouse gases, has no problem dumping the most dangerous greenhouse gas over your head. Irony? I think so. Release of aerosol particles, space shuttle exhaust. Now for that one, I want you guys to come over to weathermodificationhistory.com and check that bad boy out, because most people don't know about these things. Space shuttle exhaust started with the Atlas rocket. They had a whole bunch of, they realized the rocket was making the sky glow. The entire ionosphere was glowing red hot. It's called air glow. That's where all these sounding rockets pretty much, got their flare from. They actually knocked out all radio communication over the Pacific Ocean one time when they were launching the NASA's Skylab. Look it up. And you could look it up over at Weather Modification History. All you have to do is come down here to the timeline, and on the timeline, click on filter and click on space weather. You will see it right there. The filter is the little clock icon down here. Does it have anything to do with sundogs? I don't know. Now, this is the question I haven't been able to get a scientist to answer for me. If all of these chemicals that I've listed here, barium, trimethyl aluminum, sulfur hexafluoride, all of, strontium, all these heavy metals have been sprayed at anywhere from 100 kilometers to 300, 400 kilometers over your head. Let's come down. How much of it is still a form of barium that's active? How much of it's neutral barium, like they like to call it? I don't know. I am not an atmospheric scientist. I'm a nosy guy from Sumter, South Carolina, who reads a lot. And then when I don't understand it, I go and I look up the definition of the word. Then I go back and I read it again. That's it. And as you can see here, by the evidence I provided tonight, every bit with some reality. And I expect that it would break up a bit. And I know that when they say photoionize, they're talking about the sun basically doing alchemy. That the minute they release that barium in space, a lot of it's no longer barium. It can actually change chemical composition because it has photoionized. The sun has changed it. It's pretty similar to radioactive decay. When you're losing electrons, now the barium becomes something different. Sean, is my voice dragging again? And honestly, that's why I shouldn't be sharing screens, and I'll just cut that off after this last one. I have a very slow upload limit. So if I start talking too fast or I move my screen too quickly, it may drag. And I do apologize for that, guys. Maybe I should buy a better internet line. Injection of high power radio waves from space or the ground. Harp, Arecibo, IceCat, which is the Tromso array, and IceCat Tromso. There you say. IceCat has many facilities around the world. But like I said, these big red dots that you see here are the ionospheric heaters around the world. They usually have rocket ranges. They dump barium and aluminum in space every freaking time they turn on. Nobody really wants to talk about that. Is aluminum and barium in the cloud? Yes. Amount? Unknown. That is all the facts. Shit, you guys staying up late with me tonight. And I just want to say, extemporaneously, because all of this was extemporaneous, that, I have a very busy life. And, I got 2 kids and a grandmother who's 85-year-old with Alzheimer's. I got a wife who is just gold. And she's had my back for the 6 years that I've been doing this. And I try to keep everything in a balance. Right now, my kids are young, so I'm not going to be able to be that guy who does a video every single day. And I'm only able to do these videos late at night on a Sunday night. Should be obvious why. But I'm committed to doing this for the rest of my life till all of this is common knowledge, till at least there is a public discussion that truly talks about all of the factors involved in geoengineering, weather modification, cloud seeding, chemtrails, cloud ionization, laser weather modification. This shit drives me crazy. I took a year of weather class from an Air Force approved ROTC doctrine. And they never even mentioned cloud seeding. I mean, the fact that it is not taught at all that people modify the weather, let alone that there's control over contrails, that there is lasers, rockets, and Harp. Oh my. This stuff should be publicly known. At the very least, there should be a frank discussion about the facts so that everybody's informed, and then we can have a public, put it to a vote. I don't know what'll happen. But at the very least, from my perspective, what I'm trying to do is just get to the facts. And the facts you really can't argue with. Do I have all the facts? No. I'm perfectly okay with saying that too. What's that? Let's bring the chat over here. So, what are you figuring I would have heard? Nothing. So, I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out with me tonight. I'm sorry that, this wasn't one of those real interactive nights because shit, I had a lot to cover. But I want you guys to really pick through this stuff. Definitely go watch my presentation from Ed Griffin's Global Warming and Inconvenient Lie. If you guys will buy that DVD, I tell you what, man, you're really going to freak out at some of the stuff that was said there. My mouth was wide open, but please watch that presentation and spread it around. I mean, it's got like 5,000 views so far, and I'm very happy that I was able to inform 5,000 people with that video. But I really considered not making another video till that thing got, 10, 20,000 views. I seriously doubt it ever will. That's my frustration, is that if I came on here and I told you about how NASA was trying to kill everybody with fucking lithium and barium, I would be more popular than all of these other channels that do that on a daily basis, that sell the facts with fear. And they really only give you like one fact and then a lot of fear. I'm going to be committed to staying above that. But what I'm going to need from you guys in return is that you virally, vehemently, when you see people bullshitting and you feel like the conversation has gone too far to the loony bin, pull them back with my stuff. Try to change the narrative, because if somebody isn't pushing this thing forward, I don't think we're ever going to get there. And I don't see anybody pushing. And they're definitely not pushing with all the facts. So, is what on ClimateViewer? Oh, yeah, it's on the sidebar of every article. So go to any page on climateviewer.com. On the sidebar, you'll see geoengineering presentation. You can actually download the PowerPoint from that, send it to your congressman, send it to a senator. It is filled with references. Every single one of them is a fact. Aside from that status 450 thing. And the hole in my soul that 72 fucking pages and there's one thing wrong. Holy crap. Anyway, if you can't admit you're wrong, you got too big an ego. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate you staying up with me. Check that presentation out. Tell everybody about this, because if you're not talking about the big picture, and if you really believe that chemtrails is not a thing, then you're very small-minded. You are controlled by words, and you can't think outside the box. And the outside the box for chemtrails is this. There are many different kinds of chemtrails. There are many different definitions of chemtrails. If you ask 20 people what a chemtrail is, you will get 20 different answers. Don't let anybody tell you different. So, love you, mean it. I'm going to try to continue to do these 10 o'clock Eastern on Sundays. Hopefully, in the near future, I'm going to be doing a show with Dominic Marama, my boy from Weather Modification History. We're going to call it the Weather Modification History Hour, and we're going to get real deep into just like one topic, like one event from history, maybe like one newspaper article from the past. Just really get into it. And that's my thing. Forget talking about CO2 or fuel emissions. Dude, I still can't forget that, because at the end of the day, while everybody is trying to pass laws about CO2 coming out of planes, they are ignoring cloud creation. That is why I went to the EPA hearing. I made that damn thing happen so that I could tell them nobody gives a shit about CO2 or nitrous oxide coming out of planes, especially as it pertains to the Clean Air Act. We care about metal particles coming out of planes, the aluminum, barium, titanium, chromium, nickel. We care about aluminum nanoparticles, which are the only thing in the world that is putting them up, usually at 30,000 feet, is planes. So I went to the EPA to say, for all those who say, and I had a guy, Daryl Boggs, you stupid motherfucker, harassed me for 2 hours straight. I deleted my Facebook the other night just so anybody saw this happen, because he was harassing me about that EPA hearing in 2015. And I asked for money to get my ass there. Do you know that after all the work I've done, I still regularly, maybe every 2 weeks, hear from some asshole that's like, you lied to everybody. You told them that the EPA hearing was about chemtrails, but it was about CO2. You're a liar. You took their money. No. I went there and I said, CO2 is plant food. Nobody is scared of CO2 or any of these 6 greenhouse gases you're talking about in this lawsuit, which is not about chemtrails. Well, we're concerned about, because the lawsuit said, if you believe that aviation emissions are a threat to public health, tell us why. That is very open-ended. And I told them exactly why. We are concerned about jet aircraft making metal particles and clouds, not CO2. So to Daryl Boggs, you dumb motherfucker, I did not lie to a soul. I have not made a GoFundMe for anything like that since 2015 because of all the shit I got from chemtards. Period. And I said when I did it in 2015, it'll take 3 to 5 years before people figure out what the fuck I did then. And I was right. Because people still don't get it. I'm so far ahead of this that I don't come on here and chastise and talk down to people about how little people understand about this subject. But you can look at what I said in 2015 and understand there's nobody saying that shit still today. And you can see that what happened with the biofuel initiative, they wrote laws, they threw out the lawsuit. Everything I said was going to happened. Nobody's talking about biofuels and contrail control. Nobody's talking about the FAA and them saying we want to make clouds by day, none by night. Nobody's talking about fuel sulfur doping or any of the real stuff about contrails and making clouds. Nobody's talking about the sounding rockets we talked about tonight and how it relates to Harp, and how some people call rocket chemtrails, and how some people call plane chemtrails. Guess what? I know 4 other kind of chemtrails. I could do 4 more shows on each of those type of chemtrails. And tonight, all we talked about was clouds from planes and rockets from NASA. And now you get a little bit more of where my headspace is, why I say deal with planes making clouds as pollution, and why you got to deal with NASA and rockets and ionospheric heaters in another place in a different way, because they're different things. And this is the beginning of a new type of conversation that I want to have with the public so that you guys all get it. Bro, man, don't get me started on Dane Wigington. I'm debated making a video about him every other week, but every time I tell people about him, people shoot the messenger. So the reason I'm making this video tonight, the reason I did that thing with Ed Griffin, the reason that Dane Wigington attacked Ed Griffin is because I went there to give that speech. You mad, bro? That's a fact. So everything I'm doing is to change the conversation from retardedness to reality. It's the slogan at the top of every freaking page on my website, where conspiracy meets reality. ClimateViewer.com, ClimateViewer.org, weathermodificationhistory.com. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, guys. So any other questions? Where'd my chat go? I lost the damn thing. Put you guys back up there for a second. Also, throw this out there. I deleted my Patreon. Just set it up. Just throwing it out there. It's the end of the video. It's the end of the night. I'm about to go hit the hay. I deleted my Patreon because it just feels like work. I mean, this is supposed to be my passion. And I don't want to like have people, I don't want to get to a point where I have 1,000 patrons who are paying me monthly and supporting my ass. And then suddenly I feel like I have to come make a video. Because I'm going to tell you what, when I feel like I have to do anything, I usually oppose it. You know what I mean? Like out of chaotic revulsion, I will not do this. So I'm deleting my Patreon, and I did because I don't want to be indebted to people. I don't want to owe anybody shit. That being said, if you guys want to still donate and thank me for doing what I'm doing, I really appreciate it. What's wrong with Dane? Dane believes that global warming is a thing. Dane believes that methane is going to kill everybody on the planet. Dane supports people who say things like we need to do geoengineering to save us from methane that's going to kill everybody on the planet. Go to his website, Google methane. That's where we really, I mean, do we both believe geoengineering is a thing and it's happening? Yes. Sure. We agree on like a lot of stuff. I think that he really just uses fear as a motivator. And I don't like that, you know, he pays bots to spam every fucking thing that I post. And I wasn't going to say this, but let's just do this. And I dare you guys to please try this. Go to Chemtrails, go to geoengineeringwatch.org, and on any article, leave a comment and type in ClimateViewer.com, ClimateViewer.org, or weathermodificationhistory.com. If you say anything, I don't care if you tell Dane that he's the greatest person on the planet and he should check out ClimateViewer.com, ClimateViewer.org, or weathermodificationhistory.com. Dane will delete your comment and ban your ass immediately. That's what's wrong with Dane Wigington. That, and he stole my patent list and never gave me credit. So I take offense that he goes on Coast to Coast AM bragging about what a great researcher he is when the Harp article at the top of his page was stolen from Dutch Sense, when the patent list at the top of his page was stolen from myself, when several other articles were stolen from Dominic, my friend at weathermodificationhistory.com, when the Mount Shasta hearing was stolen by Dane Wigington himself. He has stolen everything that he has used to get the fame that he got. He doesn't understand really any of it. I have debated him in the past and whooped his ass. I will gladly debate Dane Wigington again and whip it again. I don't like him. He's a motherfucker. He's divided the community. And I have just now made my video about Dane Wigington. In addition, Russ Tanner. He is Dane's lapdog. Russ Tanner is Dane's little bitch. And the two of them harass everybody else in the community. Dane has attacked Michael Murphy. Dane has attacked Patrick Roddy. I mean, well, I don't know if he attacked Patrick, but he attacked, oh my God, Max Bliss. He got his channel deleted, 10,000 subscribers, because Max shared his video. Dane is the problem with the chemtrail community. There is no community because he made damn sure of it. When I told Dane for 3 years straight about every geoengineering solar radiation management conference coming up, I said, please, right now, SRM 2015, this is the last conference that the geoengineers are going to have before COP21 where they're going to sell all this shit. Please, Dane, tell your people to go there and protest. Your geoengineering watch. These are geoengineers. They're all going to be at this fucking place in the UK. SRM 2015. Send people to protest. Not a peep. So what's wrong with him? He's not an activist. He's a fake. What's wrong with him? He has badmouthed everybody in the community. He's stolen everything that's on his website. He doesn't understand a word of it. He refuses to debate any of it. He believes global warming is real. I'm done. So, that being said, I don't like Dane Wigington. I don't like Russ Tanner. Fuck them. They have screwed me and badmouthed me and blocked anybody who've ever linked to any of my stuff to make sure that nobody would ever see the stuff that I said to you tonight. So what does that make them? You be the judge. Any other questions? And that's why you guys hear me on here shitting with the chemtrail community. You did open a can of worms, Ralph, but it's all good. It needed to be said. I say it once a year, and I usually delete the video where I say it because they get so triggered. But I'm way past giving a fuck. I really daily consider going back and talking about privacy or cybersecurity or nuclear affairs or just straight up pollution, oil dumping in the sea. I like mapping that stuff out. The thing is, I feel like I can't leave this community hanging with a bunch of freaking charlatans and entertainers at the top of it who really aren't pragmatic. They have no solutions. They just use fear to bullshit and confuse. So for me, I kind of feel like I need to stay here and deal with these problems because, this article I wrote 2013, Chemtrails and the Lies Between the Lines. And right now, as woke as everybody pretends to be in the chemtrail community, there's still a left-right paradigm. Chemtards versus debunkers. Chemtards believe X, debunkers believe Y. Argument ensues. Nobody's got this shit figured out. Everybody's trying to be an atmospheric scientist when the simplest answer is the simplest answer. I do not like planes making clouds make them stop. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is about 2 HARP radars compressing atmospheric methane, the methane that Dane's bitching about, into diamond dust to make noctilucent clouds. It's on my website. You can read it. Project Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It was written by a guy named Malcolm Light. He's from a group called Arctic Methane Emergency Group, a group which Dane supports. So does the Harp Report. If you go to the Harp Report's YouTube page and you click on About, it links directly to Malcolm Light's website, which is Arctic Blog. He is the head of AMEG. AMEG believes methane is going to kill everybody on the planet and wrote a letter to world leaders demanding geoengineering in 2013. Dane Wigington supports this. Don't get it fucking twisted. All right. Well, boy, can't take back the things you never say, right? So let's kill this little shade. And guys, I want to thank you for asking some questions, getting some answers, because you never know what you're going to get late on a Sunday night when all the kids are tucked away and all the facts are laid bare. So I'm going to keep doing what I do. If you guys, appreciate what I do, any support's always appreciated, man. I don't make a lot of money. Actually, I make none. And every time you guys share out my videos, I know that we're changing the world. There are no ads on my site. This ain't about money. So really sucks for the debunkers, because I just happen to be a Boy Scout, and I'm going to ride this sumbitch till we get it straight. And unless somebody can come along and show me where I'm wrong, I'm going to keep saying it. And if somebody proves me that I'm wrong, I'm going to be the first to tell you guys, because somebody's got to be the big boy with the big pants and tell the truth about all this. Love you guys, mean it. And unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. Please come check out ClimateViewer.com, ClimateViewer.org, and WeatherModificationHistory.com. Get the facts, spread them around, argue with everybody, because you can't take back the words you never say. So get the facts yourself, know them well, change the world. Good night, everybody.